Hi, everyone. Welcome to the uh, Building Organizational Capacity Workshop. So I am Sunny Toreihi. I am one of the five National Summer Bonder interns. So I think today myself and Jacqueline will be presenting our different capstone presentations. So Jacqueline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Dodd. I also go by Jackie if you prefer that. I recently graduated from Averett University with a double major in computer science, computer information systems, and my project is mainly focused on a new database system for my service site.
Awesome, perfect. So I think given the order of the way it's listed in the description of the workshop, Jacqueline, are you cool to present your presentation first, and then I will follow up and maybe we can leave some room at the end for Q&A.
Sure, I can go first. My project doesn't have very much complexity to it. Um, So for starters, my site was United Way of Danville, Pennsylvania County. If you don't know about United Way, they're a nonprofit, a worldwide nonprofit that focuses on education, um, employment, and health of their local communities. Um, and so with my site supervisor, she was she was really trying to find a database system that was better suited for United Way's data needs. And in comparison to what they currently use, this new system would actually give them way more functionality, and they have many features available to them and could actually streamline a lot of their processes, um, which is why she asked me to take on this presentation of presenting this new system to their staff. Um, so I started out interviewing um, two of their staff members, one being my site supervisor, who was really for the new system that she had found. So I got like her um, opinions of what of the benefits for this new system, um, and how that would help United Way do what they do better. Um, and I also interviewed the person who preferred more to keep what they currently had to try and get both sides of the coin, if you will. Um, so then I started to put together just a regular old PowerPoint presentation. I listed the pros and cons for each system so they could get a full idea of what the current system does, um, and also what the new system could do for them. Um, in that presentation, I also did video demonstrations of the basics of how to use the new system, if to try and get some interest or to gauge how interested they would be in switching over to this new system. Um, and the presentation basically ended with a lot of, they asked me a lot of questions, and I did my best to give some answers, but then referred to my site supervisor if there was anything that I didn't quite know about just yet. I think that's about it.
Awesome, thank you. Um, do folks have any questions, thoughts? You can also write them down in the chat as well. Okay, perfect. And we'll leave some room at the end too. I am going to share a PowerPoint presentation, and essentially the way that capstone projects work at Rollins College, which is where I just graduated from, we go through the research piece and then talk about our Bonner journey. So I compiled both elements of those two pieces into one PowerPoint. So I will be sharing that right now. I am making sure that, sorry, just give me a quick second. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, perfect. Thank y'all so much. So my Bonner capstone presentation is focused on my senior thesis project, which I wrote basically 90 pages on 3 different disciplines. So philosophy, political science, and religion. So I attempted to compile all that into my thesis, which was centered around one major question, which is, why is abortion still a legally contested issue in the United States? So my Bonner capstone project is an extension of my senior thesis, which I will explain throughout this presentation. So the question is, as I have already stated, why is abortion still a legally contested issue in the United States? And the context of my senior thesis project is that in the 2018 to 2019 legislative session, we saw 9 states across the US pass restrictive laws that limited access to abortion. And so that's kind of the backdrop and what inspired this work and my senior thesis. And I found a way to kind of compile that and extend that into my senior capstone presentation. So what I did in terms of methods, generally speaking, I looked at Supreme Court cases. And so I separated them into 2 major categories. And so these Supreme Court cases essentially looked at different controversial state laws, particularly in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, that passed basic restrictions on access to abortion. So the post-Roe era being between 1973 to 1983, and then the contemporary era being the current day era, everything past 1992 to now. So before I move forward, what I did in each of the Supreme Court cases is I looked at the opinion and the dissent, and I looked at the specific language that folks were using to restrict access to abortion, and also what they used to argue for more freedom for individuals to have access to abortion. So in order to do that, I also looked at 3 different legal theories. And so while doing that, I essentially created a table with the 3 major criteria that individuals would use to identify each legal theory. And so in order to kind of simplify this and make it a little bit easier to understand, I put it in a basic table. So people can use reason-based justifications, principle-based justifications, and moral-based justifications to either argue for access to abortion or limited access to abortion. The moral-based justification is usually stemming from a Judeo-Christian conception of autonomy, which is generally limited to white male identifying individuals. Whereas the reason-based looks to past Supreme Court cases, what the Constitution says, and the kind of center, justification looks at different principles. So when we think of equality, justice, those are different principles that people use to justify access to abortion or not. So I looked at each of the Supreme Court cases. I coded each argument or opinion and dissent based off of the specific legal theory that each case identified most with. Then I put it on these graphs, which I had showed at the beginning, to show the distribution of different Supreme Court judges and what legal theory they most likely to use in order to argue their cases. So the distribution is shown here in kind of a comparative lens. And so with this kind of results distribution, I also research other statistical data to basically amplify the problem of reproductive justice as being an access not only to female identifying individuals, but also to people of color and predominantly members of the LGBTQ+ community who identify as intersex or trans. So looking at both my graphical distribution and my data distribution, I looked at major findings. So the kind of major finding that I saw is that as we are moving from Roe v. Wade's passage in 1973 to the 2020 era of reproductive justice, we see that different arguments that utilize natural law theory, which is the moral-based justification, are being used more frequently and more directly in the 21st century. So the problem with this is that when we look at and we think about political science and living in a democracy, every voice matters and every position matters. But when our Supreme Court is being racked up with individuals who have one predominant vision of autonomy and one predominant vision of how we ought to interpret the law, that is a threat to democracy because it doesn't allow for difference in ideas, difference in thought, and the ability for different public policy issues to be addressed from different frames. So in order to apply that to my Bonner capstone presentation, what I did is I am still in progress working on a pamphlet to show all of this research and information, given that the Planned Parenthood for Reproductive Justice nonprofit organization has a chapter in East Orlando, which is where I am from, but they have very limited information on Supreme Court laws in 2020 and the shifts that we're seeing and specific policy recommendations that folks can take. So given this, one major policy recommendation that I give is that we should have different discussions of basically sex education and reproductive rights education being given from a state and local level so that different folks can be educated on these issues and have greater access to resources. And then another policy recommendation that I give, which I am currently writing in my pamphlet, is to have more of these discussions, not only in the Bonner program, but also being extended to different other nonprofit organizations, including the Coalition for Homeless, which is a major organization in Orlando. These issues are inherently intersectional, so they do not necessarily just work with or involve gender or, as seen here, a public health issue. It also intersects with race, with class, with ability status. So that's kind of the major point that I delineate in my capstone. So that's my bibliography, and then I move into just a general synopsis of my college career. So before Bonner, I engaged in a lot of community service work. I was very involved with the National Honor Society and the Beta Club, where I did many hours, not only helping with blood drives, but also teaching English to different individuals in my local middle school, amongst other activities. And then I was actually waitlisted for the Bonner program, and I was in Iran. I'm Iranian American, so we had a huge time zone difference, and I was actually there for the summer. And I got a call that said I had been removed off the waitlist and am now Bonner leader. So that was the start to finding my passion and purpose. So my first year, I joined the Bonner program and found my family. I had a very tumultuous year. I was a biology major. I wasn't really sure what I was doing with my life, but the Bonner program was really great in kind of shaping those experiences. That can be seen most prominently with this slide. I went to my first Summer Leadership Institute at Lindsey Wilson College in 2017. And so I went there, I began canvassing for different candidates in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I went on different service-based trips. But in this PowerPoint, you can see that the SECO image is my first community partner that I worked with for 2 years, and that experience really culminated what it meant for me to put all of my academic passions of public policy and women's rights and just feminism in general into my my work and my community engagement work. So coupled with that, I worked for the Ana Eskamani campaign, which was a local House of Representatives candidate. And I also became an RA. And then I was part of the debate team also. So I participated in a debate competition where I argued in favor of increased governmental action on behalf of the Me Too movement and how we can increase sexual assault awareness and take action to address the issue. And I also attended a public policy conference in Malibu, California at Pepperdine, and again, just increasing my knowledge and experience. I helped elect the first Iranian American into office in Florida during my junior year. And I used my public policy work in this one class with my professor and also Bonner leaders. And I basically, while doing that public policy work, I also worked for the Harbor House as a volunteer there in the domestic violence shelter, helped with a lot of the organizational material, the public policy side, and also marketing. And then my life changed during my senior year. I became one of 3 senior Bonner interns. And this is a compilation of my senior year. I tried very hard to change kind of the energy and the attitude and the structure and kind of create just a wholesome space of growth and work together with different cohorts and just make this year the best that I could possibly make it with my peers. And then, of course, what is next? Right now, I serve as one of 5 National Bonner interns. So I'm really privileged to be part of the space and work with them and take what I learned at Rollins College and bring it to the national level. And then we'll be finally, hopefully, attending Georgetown University in the fall of 2021. I've been accepted for this year and I deferred admission because of COVID-19. So hopefully things will get better. And yeah, so that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Sunny. That was beautiful. It was really
Thank
nice
you.
to hear about your capstone experience and what it was like building capacity in various ways with community partner sites, but also in your Bonner program. And then to get to hear a little bit more about your Bonner journey as well. That was really awesome. Awesome. So next, we have Jacqueline Dodd from Averett University. Would you like to go next, Jacqueline?
Oh, she already presented as well.
I did. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, wow. Okay. I came late. Wow. Apologize. All right. Well, then, do y'all want to open it up for Q&A? So if people have questions, you can put them in the chat or just unmute yourself and just ask.
So, hi, I'm Derek. I'm the chaplain at Wilson College in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm also the director of our Bonner Leader program, which is in its first year. We have had 5 this year, and hopefully we'll have another 5 next year. My question is, as this program is being built out, I'm hoping that some of my students are taking part in these SLI, this conference right now. I have not seen them in any of the sessions I've been in. But what fueled you? What gave you excitement to as part of the Bonner program? What are things that you would hope that you would urge me to encourage them to do. I'm one person trying to put this together, and I'm hoping to engage them and energize them that they're going to help build this out. But I'm looking for what's the thing that got you, that you're like, yes, this is what a Bonner experience is. This is the thing that I want to be part of and I want to share with others because it mattered so much to me. I would love to hear some of those experiences. I mean, I think the work you all presented is amazing, and I know my students can get there, and I just need to figure out how to support them. And so I kind of look for some feedback as a leader in the program. What advice can you give me? Because you are far more knowledgeable as a Bonner than I am in my time in Bonner.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. So I'd say like a few things. The first thing that really got me was in the Bonner network, it's generally referred to as like the Bonner first year orientation. At Rollins, we call it our Bonner retreat. So essentially what Rollins does is a week or two before classes actually start, we organize a 5-day experience. So what would be really cool and something that I advise other schools to do is to really invest in that time with the Bonners and create intentional workshops. So the Bonner Foundation has a website with all different resources that you can use to kind of fill in space and time and basically have the Bonners together and have fun. Building that relationship from the very beginning will get people excited to collaborate throughout the rest of the year. Another thing is that we have all Bonner meetings once a month. And so another thing that really helps is simply getting people to go out to dinner or get ice cream afterwards. And then a third thing, now that folks are online, we're all here, my school, my alma mater, is basically getting folks to, on the first day back, when folks go back for the fall semester, to sit down and watch all of the Summer Leadership Institute workshops together. Maybe they could like eat popcorn, sit down, learn more about the Bonner program, just some food for thought.
Those are really excellent ideas. Go ahead, Derek. Did you want to say something else?
No, I appreciate that. I was not able to do a retreat right before the semester started, and I was disappointed in that. And of course, I have no idea what's going to happen this fall yet, so I haven't been able to plan anything. But I appreciate that advice. I did in January. I led a disaster relief trip that 4 of the 5 were able to go on. I think that was helpful. And so, but I appreciate the building community before anything else. And so I thank you for that. I will focus and make that a priority.
Yeah, I think those are great suggestions. I didn't know your program was thinking about watching all these SLI videos, but I think that's an awesome idea. We can also, I think, if you all are okay, if anyone else wanted to respond to Derek, who's been a Bonner and is a Bonner and has an idea, want to speak to his question. If Sunny and Jacqueline are okay, we could even open it up and let other people kind of respond. If not, that's okay. There's another question in the chat as well.
Hi, I'm Dominique. I'm from the University of Richmond. This isn't regarding Derek's question, but I wanted to ask a question for Sunny. You mentioned the 5-day retreat. Did you have them, did all the Bonners come to this retreat, like you said, before classes start? So did they have to move in early, and kind of how did the Bonner Foundation kind of organize that with the university to allow people to come on campus that early?
Yeah.
And also, what other activities did you do during that time? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So just like a quick clarification, for the actual retreat, it was kind of organized on a school level, not necessarily on a foundation, but we acquire our resources from the foundation website to help build the retreat. So our school acquires funding from financial aid. We divide it throughout the year. We have a certain funding for financial aid. And so essentially, every person in the Bonner program is scheduled to move in 1 to 2 weeks earlier than the school date. And we contacted our residential life office in order to arrange that months in advance. So I know things are very up in the air with COVID-19, but potentially a spring retreat might be something to look into if you're thinking about doing it. It's definitely what my school will be doing. And so kind of having both of those in mind, for the actual retreat itself, it's 5 days. So for the first night, it's with all of the upperclassmen, the leadership team. They come back together, and then the morning of the second day, we have the upperclassmen meeting all the first year Bonners. That's like the very exciting piece that folks have. And then there are specific times where the upperclassmen have a break, but then the first years get to spend one-on-one time with the leadership team to talk about what is Bonner, what is B Webbers, what is service. Well, they should know what service is, but like community partners and how to serve. What are the responsibilities for being a Bonner? That should take, I'd probably say, like half a day. So other activities, so I actually spent last summer creating and running the retreat. So what we did was we had a service project every single day. And so it was both direct and indirect service. So an example, direct, we went and we volunteered at a local pet rescue shelter. And then we also volunteered at a nonprofit that helped to recycle mattresses to give to folks who are homeless. Indirectly, we partnered with Clean the World, which is an initiative where folks can essentially take unused hotel soaps and other toiletries and then repackage them to give to folks in need. So those were two direct and indirect service examples. On top of that, we had fun things. So we did karaoke. We went to Wekiva Springs, which is a local springs, natural springs place where we did environmental restoration work, and then we swam in the springs. So finding ways to balance fun with service. Service is fun, but the actual engagement with the community and also having fun with your local peers, that's basically what we did and tried to accomplish in the 5 days. It's very hard, it's very long, but it's very fun.
Great, thank you so much.
Excellent answer, Sunny. Your orientation sounds like a lot of fun.
Thank you.
There were some questions in the chat too, so maybe we can pose those from Ariana. What advice can you give to rising seniors to ensure that they're that they are successful in transitions from being an undergraduate to graduate student? I know you haven't spent quite much time with this, Sunny, but if you want to take a stab, or I can try and answer that as well, actually.
Yeah, so I unfortunately had to graduate during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I have been at home for a few months. And so I'd say like there's a few things you could do. One is continue to read frequently. I try to read between 2 or 3 books a month, if not more, reading peer-reviewed academic journals and different pieces in there. Because once you end school, your mind is kind of at peace for a few days. But in order to keep the critical reading and thinking skills, it's really important to continue to read. And then secondly, having conversations with your family and your peers about different, I'd say like issues, calmly and with empathy would really help with argumentation skills, especially for folks who are attending graduate school in any of the liberal arts style studies and master's programs. That would really help too. And then I'll think of some more and I'll probably drop them in the chat, but those are the 2 that come to mind right now.
Thank you.
I'll speak a little to this too. So for me, I did not transition. I'm in a master's program right now, so I'm a graduate student right now. So I didn't transition right out of undergrad into graduate school. But for me, something that I feel like is a big difference is now I don't connect my identity so much as being a student. And I think that was really important for me to have a life and identity outside of being a student. I feel like in undergrad, it was just, I'm a student, and that everything was focused on that. And so transitioning into postgraduate life and graduate and being a graduate student, I think it's important to really as Sunny said, like read other things outside of school, or, develop, I don't want to say hobbies or other interests that make you feel like your full self in person outside of like just school. Maybe not everyone has that issue, but I had that issue of really identifying so much as being a student. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You really spoke about how, like, one of my fears is trying to figure out my identity, like you said, when I transition, because like I'm so used to being a Bonner, I'm so used to being a part of clubs and organizations, but what is it like in grad school? It's probably not going to be the same, but to see that you still succeed now is great to hear, and thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate that. And yeah, I think it's something that people don't talk about enough, that it's kind of hard to like transition out. And to be honest, it took me a couple of years to feel like comfortable with who I am and my identity now outside of being a student. But you sound awesome. And you're already asking these great questions and being reflective about it. So I'm sure you'll have no problem.
Thank you.
Let's see, there's another question. What do you think are the benefits to continue grad school in public policy? What did make you decide to apply, and what advice for someone who wants to work in the nonprofit sector to apply to grad school? So I think that one's probably for you, Sunny.
No problem. I love the questions. Keep them coming. So I, just a quick backstory. I applied to both public policy and law school, but because I had a very difficult senior year, I got accepted into my dream school, which was Georgetown, and I deferred admission, but I'm doing another round of admissions, just to apply to places I didn't get a chance to. But to answer your question more specifically, for me, and from especially the peers that have also applied to these graduate programs, some of the key benefits to continue are that A, you can take all of the quantitative and qualitative research and reading and writing skills that you learned in undergrad, and not only learn them more meticulously and in a more detailed fashion, but have really good connections to internships that you can utilize that time to serve a particular community. So for me, I'm really passionate about education policy and specifically Title IX law. So that's my focus area of research and what I would be pursuing at Georgetown. And so what I would say in terms of advice in order to not only apply but work in the nonprofit field is to kind of take a step back and brainstorm what policy areas or what impact areas you really like, and then research graduate programs that have a very big emphasis or focus on that, and then apply early. Look at the Bonner Learning Community and Bonner Connect as good platforms to get more information on applying. So for example, we had a session on how to write your personal statement. You can look at that session later on. Bonner gives really good resources and good connections. And I didn't get into Georgetown until Bonner put the partnership up in the past year. So be very active in social media because the foundation continuously posts different opportunities. And so generally speaking, you can work in the public field for the government, working on Capitol Hill for a particular senator or a particular advocacy group, like for foreign policy, for national security. You can work in the private field as a consulting agent or for a different firm that works in research. And then you can also work in the nonprofit sector for specific groups like the National Organization of Women, which does, again, more of the skills that we see in the public and private sphere, but more focused and honed in on specific communities that are affected by the issues. So generally speaking, I advocate for it, but find your passion, find the programs that are best for you, and utilize all of the opportunities that the foundation gives you.
Thank you, Sunny. I'll just mention that I put in the chat a link to bonner.org/graduate school. So Sunny was alluding to some of the partnerships that the Bonner Foundation has with graduate schools. So we have, oh gosh, I don't know how many, meant a lot, 20 or so, maybe more, with a variety of different graduate schools. Some of them are in public policy. Actually, that might be the highest number that we have of partnerships, but we also have public health and education and a variety of other issue areas. And so most of these partnerships offer some sort of financial benefit for Bonner students, Bonner alumni, and some of them even Bonner staff. So like scholarships or fellowships that range from like $5,000 to $10,000 to $25,000 just for being a Bonner. So I encourage you to check out that link and see which schools that applies to, because you may want to apply to one of those schools like Sunny did. Do we have other questions? No? Anyone else want to try and speak to Derek's question? Because I think it was really good about like what were some of the most important or formative aspects of your experience in Bonner that made it feel like Bonner to you. Let's help him out and give him some good ideas. You can put them in the chat. You don't have to unmute if you don't feel comfortable. We got all Bonner meetings, definitely. Fundraisers. Yeah, that's, go ahead. Oh, yep.
Maria, would you like to talk about, sorry, I'm like putting you on the spot, both the baking and the t-shirt fundraiser? I just think it's a really beautiful idea, and it's something that really like worked with like the entire network and like brought like the community together. So if you can speak to that, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm a rising sophomore, so I just did my first year as a Bonner. And I can honestly say I'm from Montclair State, and we're definitely like a family. And if you follow us on Instagram, you can see that we're always together no matter what. We did have a t-shirt. It wasn't only t-shirts, it was like hoodies and stuff. And I have it on. You see, it's like Bonner, this is. So we kind of fundraised through that, and we didn't make it exclusively for Montclair, so Bonner programs everywhere could have access to them, and it did really well. I think I got like a hoodie. I got like all my friends a hoodie, and I have a long sleeve. And honestly, the fundraisers was a big part because the day before the fundraisers, we all made the food together. So we had like baking parties, whoever was on campus, people who weren't on campus came to campus, and it was just having that, being connected with each other throughout things that weren't necessary. Like, yes, we have service, we do service together. Yes, we have the mandatory meetings, class meetings, and all Bonner meetings. But it was just, we want to be together even when we don't have to be together. And it's just having little fun events like that. And I know that we have an orientation also over the summer, and we go to Hazen, New Jersey, and we sleep at a church for a week and we do service there. But then at night, we're all like watching, we have movie nights, we're like doing games, running on the church, just like getting to know each other, but also doing service at the same time. So I know for us, that was very important, and it made us feel like more like a family. And I think right now we actually just finished our cohort for next year. And we have 12 new freshmen, 3 new sophomores, and a new junior. And we have, I think, maybe 60 people in our Bonner program right now. And we had a record number of applicants. So that's just really what it is. It's making everybody feel like a family and having those events that aren't necessary, but like that people want to go to.
Montclair is like the social media, on the social media game. I don't know the reference.
Hello, MSU Bonner Leaders. That's me. I'm social media chair.
Yeah, I put the link to their fundraiser for the sweatshirts. I have one too, Maria. I bought one as well with the New Jersey.
I'm probably gonna go there.
Yeah, I really loved the design as well, but I thought it was a great idea to make it just open, like an open fundraiser. So it's not even just limited to like Montclair, it's like any Bonner, right, could
Yeah.
buy and then donate.
Do it again with a different design. So if anybody has ideas for the design, definitely like chip in, because again, it's not only for Montclair Bonner leaders, it's for every Bonner leader.
Yeah, it's awesome. Any more questions or ideas? I mean, we can end early, that's okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can leave this running for a little bit longer if people want to hang back and ask anything else or chat. But if that's it, I think we're good. Thanks, Derek.
Guys,
Bye. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
no problem.
Thanks, everybody.